The family had been planning this vacation for months. It wasn't just any trip. It was a special chance for them to relax, have fun, and spend time together away from their busy lives. The father, Marcus, was a hard-working man. He worked as an FBI agent, a job that kept him busy and often under a lot of pressure. He rarely got time off, and when he did, he wanted to make sure his family had the best time possible. His wife, Angela, was equally excited. She had been juggling work and taking care of their two children, a teenage daughter named Maya and a young son named Jordan. Both kids were looking forward to this trip too. It was the first time in a long while that the whole family would be able to travel together without worrying about work or school. They decided to go to a popular vacation spot, known for its beautiful beaches, parks, and friendly atmosphere. Marcus had done a lot of research before picking this place. He wanted somewhere safe and enjoyable, a place where his family could forget about everyday stress. They packed their bags carefully, making sure they had everything they would need. From swimsuits and sunscreen to books and snacks, nothing was left behind. The kids were bubbling with excitement as they loaded the car for the long drive. During the journey, the family talked about all the things they wanted to do. Maya dreamed of swimming in the clear ocean water and building huge sand castles, while Jordan was excited to explore the nature trails and maybe even spot some wildlife. Angela wanted to visit local markets and try new foods, while Marcus hoped for some quiet moments just to read and relax. It was a perfect plan, a chance for everyone to do something they loved. As they drove closer to their destination, the scenery changed from busy highways to peaceful countryside roads lined with trees. The sun was shining brightly, making everything look warm and welcoming. The children pressed their faces to the car windows, watching the world pass by with wide eyes. Marcus smiled quietly to himself, happy to see his family so joyful. For once, all worries seemed far away. When they arrived, the family checked into a small but cozy hotel near the beach. The hotel staff greeted them warmly, making them feel at home. Their room had a nice view of the ocean, and the sound of waves crashing softly against the shore filled the air. The children ran to the balcony, eager to feel the sea breeze and hear the calls of distant seagulls. It felt like a dream come true. That first evening they walked along the beach together, their feet sinking into the soft sand. They laughed and talked about the adventures they would have in the days ahead. Marcus felt a deep sense of gratitude for his family's health, for the chance to spend time with them, and for this beautiful moment. Angela held his hand tightly, and the children played nearby, chasing each other and collecting shells. Despite all the happiness, Marcus couldn't completely forget about his job. Being an FBI agent meant he had to stay alert and aware, even on vacation. He knew that bad things could happen anywhere, and sometimes danger did not announce itself. Still, he pushed those thoughts aside, telling himself this trip was for rest and joy. He wanted to protect his family by simply being there for them, watching over them quietly. The next few days were filled with fun and discovery. They went swimming, tried new foods at local restaurants, and took long walks in the evening. The kids made new friends at the beach, and Angela enjoyed taking pictures of the sunset, capturing memories they would cherish forever. Marcus even found some time to read a book by the water, a rare moment of peace that he treasured deeply. Yet, beneath the surface of their happy vacation, Marcus sensed something was not quite right. Sometimes, when they walked through town, he noticed people staring at them differently. It was a feeling he knew all too well, a reminder that despite the smiles and sunny weather, they were not always seen just as a family on vacation. Marcus, Angela, Maya, and Jordan were Black, and in many places, that brought unwanted attention. Marcus didn't want to ruin the trip by thinking too much about it, but he was aware that things could change quickly. His role as an FBI agent made him cautious, always ready to protect his family if needed. He taught his children to be respectful but firm, to know their rights and to stay calm no matter what happened. These lessons were important, not just for safety, but for dignity. One afternoon, while walking through a busy shopping area, Marcus noticed two police officers watching them closely. The officers didn't approach immediately, but their eyes followed the family as they browsed stores and laughed together. Marcus felt a tightening in his chest. This was the kind of situation he was always prepared for, but he had hoped to avoid during this vacation. Angela squeezed his arm gently, sensing his concern. She whispered that everything would be fine, but Marcus knew better. He felt the weight of his responsibility more than ever. His family was vulnerable, and sometimes the people meant to protect them could become the source of fear. Still, Marcus decided to stay calm. He didn't want to alarm his family or cause a scene. Instead, he kept walking with them, making sure they stayed close. He reminded himself that this trip was theirs, a time to enjoy, to bond, and to create happy memories. That evening, as they sat together in their hotel room, Marcus talked with Angela about what they had experienced. They agreed to stay vigilant but to focus on the good moments ahead. The kids didn't fully understand the tension, but they trusted their parents. They knew they were safe as long as their parents were with them. The family went to bed that night feeling tired but hopeful. They knew that their vacation was more than just a break. It was a chance to be together, to grow stronger, and to face whatever challenges came their way as a united family. Marcus hoped that by morning everything would be brighter and simpler. Little did they know, the very next day would bring an unexpected turn. A moment when their peaceful trip would be shattered by fear, confusion, and injustice. But even in the face of those dark times, Marcus was ready to stand strong for his family, showing courage and calm that only someone with his experience could have. For now, though, they slept peacefully, wrapped in the comfort of each other's presence and the soft sounds of the ocean just beyond their window. If you want, I can continue writing the next parts in a similar style, or on this part even more. The next morning began like any other vacation day for Marcus and his family. The sun was shining brightly, birds were chirping, and the smell of salty ocean air filled the room. The family was excited to continue exploring their destination. They had made plans to visit a popular local park that day, one known for its scenic beauty and fun activities for kids. It was the perfect place to relax and enjoy the day. After breakfast, Marcus and Angela packed a small bag with water, snacks, and sunscreen. Maya and Jordan were full of energy, ready to run and play. The family walked out of their hotel with smiles on their faces, eager to make the most of their vacation. Marcus kept an eye on his surroundings, as he always did, but he tried to focus on the joyful moments ahead, rather than worry about what might happen. As they arrived at the park, the family found a spot near the playground. The children immediately ran off to play with other kids, their laughter echoing through the air. Angela and Marcus sat on a nearby bench, watching their children with happiness. For a while, everything seemed normal, peaceful and calm, but that calm was about to be broken. Not far from where the family was enjoying their day, two police officers were on patrol. They noticed Marcus and his family and began watching them closely. At first, the officers said nothing, but their body language changed as they observed the family's relaxed behavior. They seemed suspicious, watching the family as if they didn't belong. Marcus noticed the officer's gaze but did not want to cause alarm. He believed in staying calm and composed, even in uncomfortable situations. Still, the officers approached the family, their faces serious. One of the officers asked Marcus if he and his family had been causing any trouble. Marcus replied politely that they were simply on vacation, here to enjoy the park and spend time together. Angela added that they were from out of town and just wanted a peaceful day. Despite their calm responses, the officers didn't seem satisfied. They started asking more questions, their tone growing sharper. The children, sensing the tension, stopped playing and gathered near their parents. Marcus felt a knot tighten in his stomach. Without giving a clear reason, the officers claimed they had received reports of suspicious activity in the area. They insisted on checking the family's identification. Marcus and Angela cooperated, handing over their IDs. The officers examined them closely but still looked unconvinced. The situation escalated quickly. One officer accused Marcus of lying about their intentions and suggested that the family was trying to avoid the law. Marcus calmly explained that they were tourists with no criminal history, but the officers ignored his words. Suddenly, the officers told Marcus that he was under arrest for suspicion of suspicious behavior. The family was shocked and confused. Angela pleaded, trying to explain that there had been no wrongdoing. Maya and Jordan clung to their parents, frightened by the sudden turn of events. As Marcus was handcuffed, he stayed composed. Years of training and experience as an FBI agent had taught him how to remain calm under pressure. He knew that panicking would only make the situation worse. He assured his family that everything would be okay, even as the officers led him away. Angela was told to stay put, but she refused to leave without her husband and children. The officers insisted that she remain where she was, separating the family. The children began to cry softly, scared and confused. Marcus's mind raced. He realized the arrest was not about any real suspicion, but rather a case of racial profiling. The officers' behavior had been driven by bias, judging the family based on their skin color rather than facts. Inside the police station, Marcus was placed in a holding room. He immediately asked to speak to a supervisor. He calmly explained his identity as an FBI agent, showing his badge and credentials. The officers around him seemed surprised, realizing who he was for the first time. Despite the revelation, Marcus remained patient. He knew that showing anger or frustration would not help. Instead, he focused on protecting his family and making sure they were safe. Meanwhile, Angela stayed outside with the children, trying to comfort them as best she could. The police officers began to understand their mistake. They apologized for the wrongful arrest, but still treated the family with suspicion. Marcus insisted that they be released immediately and that the officers responsible for the incident be held accountable. The family was finally reunited outside the station. The children clung to their parents, relieved to be together again. Angela hugged Marcus tightly, tears streaming down her face. The joy of their vacation had turned into fear and confusion in just a short time. As they left the station, Marcus took a deep breath. He knew this experience was just the beginning of a much bigger fight, not only for his family but for others who faced similar injustice. He promised himself that he would do everything in his power to fight racial profiling and unfair treatment by law enforcement. The day that was meant to be full of laughter and relaxation had turned into a painful lesson about prejudice and the harsh realities many families face. Marcus and his family had faced fear, but they were stronger together. They would use this moment to raise their voices and demand change. Despite the pain and shock, Marcus remained hopeful. He believed that sharing their story would help others understand the importance of fairness, respect, and equality. The family's vacation was no longer just about fun. It was now a symbol of resilience and courage. The experience left a deep mark on all of them, but it also brought them closer. They knew that the road ahead would be difficult, but they were ready to face it as a united family. After Marcus was taken to the police station, a heavy silence filled the room. The small, cold space was stark and intimidating. The fluorescent lights buzzed softly overhead, casting a harsh glare on the plain walls. Despite the tension, Marcus remained calm. Years of training as an FBI agent had prepared him for high-pressure situations, but nothing quite like this. A personal injustice fueled by racial bias. At first, the officers seemed uncertain how to handle the situation. They had arrested a man without cause, only to discover that he was not an ordinary citizen, but an FBI agent. This revelation shifted the entire atmosphere in the room. The officers exchanged uneasy glances, suddenly aware that their actions might have serious consequences. Marcus, still composed, pulled out his FBI credentials and displayed them clearly. The badge gleamed under the light, and the officers' expressions changed from suspicion to surprise. One of the officers muttered, quietly, barely able to believe the reality before him. "Sir, we didn't know," one officer said, attempting to explain. But Marcus cut him off gently but firmly. "Not knowing is not an excuse for wrongful arrest or racial profiling," Marcus replied. His voice was steady and clear. He made sure the officers understood that this was not just about him. This was about fairness, respect, and the rule of law. Meanwhile, outside the room, Angela sat with their children, Maya and Jordan. Her heart was heavy with worry. She kept telling the kids to stay strong and that everything would be okay. But inside, she felt the sharp sting of fear and uncertainty. The children were confused and scared, holding tightly to their mothers, hands, eyes wide as they tried to understand why their father had been taken away. Back inside, Marcus requested to speak with a supervisor. The situation had escalated beyond the officer's control, and the presence of an FBI agent complicated things. Soon, a senior officer arrived. He listened carefully as Marcus explained everything: the family's vacation, the officer's actions, and the clear evidence of racial bias. The supervisor's face grew serious. He promised that an internal investigation would be launched to examine the officer's conduct. The wrongful arrest could not be ignored, especially given Marcus's position and the clear mistreatment. Marcus insisted that his family be released immediately. The supervisor agreed but warned that the investigation might take time. Marcus nodded, understanding that while justice might be delayed, it was crucial to hold those responsible accountable. The officers involved in the arrest looked uncomfortable. The power dynamics had shifted. Now, instead of Marcus being at their mercy, they were under scrutiny. They knew their behavior was wrong, but admitting it was difficult. The shame of being caught in racial bias weighed heavily on them. Outside the station, Angela's relief was overwhelming when she saw Marcus return. The family rushed to embrace each other. Tears flowed freely. Tears of relief, fear, and frustration. They were grateful to be together but deeply shaken by the experience. Marcus comforted his children, explaining as best as he could that sometimes people make mistakes because of fear or ignorance. He told them that it was important to stay calm and strong and to always know their rights. The family promised each other that they would stand united no matter what. The story didn't end there. Marcus contacted his superiors at the FBI to report the incident. He also reached out to civil rights organizations to share his family's experience. He wanted to use his voice and position to highlight the dangers of racial profiling and police misconduct. News of the arrest quickly spread. Local media picked up the story, shining a light on what had happened. The community reacted with shock and anger. Many people expressed support for Marcus and his family, condemning the actions of the officers. The police department faced pressure to act swiftly. Public officials demanded transparency and accountability. Internal reviews began, and training programs on racial bias were promised. Marcus remained involved, determined to see real change. Despite the progress, the emotional scars remained. Marcus and Angela struggled to process the trauma their family had endured. They spent long nights talking about what happened, reassuring their children, and finding ways to heal together. Marcus's role as an FBI agent gave him a unique perspective. He understood the importance of law enforcement and respected the work of honest officers. But he also knew that systemic problems needed to be addressed. His experience had shown him that no one should be above the law, and everyone deserved to be treated with dignity. The family's story became more than just a personal ordeal. It became a symbol of the ongoing fight against racism and injustice. Marcus and Angela began speaking at community events, sharing their experience to raise awareness and encourage dialogue. Maya and Jordan, inspired by their parents' courage, learned to speak up about unfair treatment and to stand for what is right. Their family's bond grew stronger, fueled by resilience and hope. Throughout it all, Marcus never lost his calm or professionalism. His strength gave the family courage, reminding them that even in the darkest moments, they could find light. The incident was a harsh reminder that racism still exists, even in places meant for relaxation and happiness. But it was also a call to action, a chance to make things better for future generations. Marcus and his family emerged from the experience not broken, but determined. Their vacation had been interrupted, but their fight for justice was just beginning. After the family was released from the police station, the weight of what had happened stayed with them. Marcus, Angela, Maya, and Jordan felt relief at being together again, but the emotional impact was deep. They knew the experience was not just a one-time mistake. It was a harsh example of a larger problem, racial bias and injustice that many people face every day. The news of the wrongful arrest quickly spread. Someone in the police station had shared the story with a local reporter, and soon, the family's experience was being discussed in the community and on social media. People were shocked and angry that a black family on vacation could be treated so unfairly. Many expressed their support for Marcus and his family. They shared messages of sympathy and outrage, demanding answers and justice. Marcus understood the power of the story. He realized that what happened to his family could happen to many others, and it was important to raise awareness. He decided to speak publicly about the incident, not just for himself, but to highlight the urgent need for change in law enforcement practices. Angela stood firmly by his side. She shared her feelings about the fear and pain they had felt, especially the impact on their children. Maya and Jordan also joined their parents in some of the interviews, showing the human side of the story. Their voices made the message even stronger and more real for people who might not understand what racial profiling means. The media attention brought a spotlight on the police department. The chief of police held a press conference, apologizing for the wrongful arrest and promising a full investigation. He said that the department was committed to improving training on racial bias and ensuring that officers respected all members of the community equally. Despite these promises, many people remained skeptical. They wanted to see real actions, not just words. Community leaders and activists organized meetings and protests, calling for accountability and changes to prevent similar incidents in the future. Marcus participated in these events, using his position as an FBI agent and the family's experience to advocate for reform. He spoke about how racial profiling undermines trust between law enforcement and the communities they serve. He emphasized the importance of respect, fairness, and transparency. Meanwhile, investigations into the officers involved began. The police department reviewed body camera footage, spoke to witnesses, and examined the officers' records. It became clear that the arrest was unjustified and that the officers had acted on biased assumptions rather than facts. The officers faced disciplinary actions, including suspensions and retraining programs. Some community members called for their dismissal, believing that such behavior could not be tolerated in law enforcement. The debate stirred strong emotions on all sides, showing how divided opinions were about police accountability. Through all this, Marcus and his family dealt with their own feelings. The trauma of being arrested without cause left emotional scars. Angela struggled with anxiety, especially about how the incident might affect their children's sense of safety and identity. Maya and Jordan had nightmares and sometimes found it hard to talk about what happened. To support their healing, the family sought counseling. They attended therapy sessions together and individually, helping them process their emotions and build resilience. Marcus used his knowledge of psychology from his FBI training to help guide these conversations at home. The experience also brought them closer as a family. They talked openly about race, injustice, and how to face challenges together. Marcus and Angela taught their children to be proud of who they were and to stand up for their rights with dignity and courage. Community support played a big role in their recovery. Neighbors, friends, and even strangers offered encouragement and assistance. Local organizations provided resources for families affected by racial bias and police misconduct. The family found strength in this solidarity, knowing they were not alone. As the investigation and public discussions continued, Marcus took steps to ensure that his family's story would have a lasting impact. He collaborated with civil rights groups to develop training programs for law enforcement agencies. These programs focused on cultural awareness, bias reduction, and community engagement. Marcus also worked with lawmakers, sharing his experience to support policies aimed at increasing police accountability and transparency. He spoke at conferences and workshops, emphasizing that change requires cooperation between law enforcement and the communities they serve. Angela became a vocal advocate as well. She organized community events to educate parents and children about their rights and how to respond safely during police encounters. Her work helped empower families to protect themselves and demand respect. Maya and Jordan grew into young advocates too. Inspired by their parents, they participated in youth leadership programs and spoke at schools about the importance of equality and justice. Their voices brought a hopeful message for future generations. The family's story inspired many people to take action. It sparked conversations about race, justice, and the role of police in society. While the road to change was long and challenging, Marcus and his family were determined to be part of the solution. They understood that the fight against racism and injustice required patience, courage, and unity. Their vacation had been interrupted by an incident of racial bias, but it had also given them a powerful platform to make a difference. Through public support, media attention, and their own advocacy, the family helped shine a light on problems that too often remain hidden. They showed that even in difficult moments, hope and change are possible. Their experience became a reminder that behind every news story are real people, with real feelings, and families who deserve respect. Marcus and Angela's strength and commitment inspired others to believe in the possibility of a fairer, more just world. As time passed, the family continued to heal and grow. They traveled again, hopeful but cautious, always carrying the lessons they had learned. They remained committed to raising awareness and fighting for justice, knowing that their voices could help protect others. The community's response showed that change begins with listening and understanding. It also proved that courage in the face of adversity can spark powerful movements. Marcus, Angela, Maya, and Jordan's story was not just about a wrongful arrest. It was about resilience, hope, and the ongoing struggle for equality. It was a story of a family who refused to be silenced, who used their pain to fuel positive change, and who believed that a better future was possible for everyone. After the intense media attention, community protests, and police investigations, Marcus and his family knew their journey was far from over. The experience of being wrongly arrested had changed their lives deeply. They realized that while their story had helped bring attention to racial injustice, the real work of healing and fighting for lasting change was still ahead. At home, the family took time to reflect. The days following the incident were filled with quiet conversations, moments of doubt, and a shared determination to move forward. Marcus and Angela supported each other, knowing that they needed to be strong not just for themselves but especially for Maya and Jordan. The children were still trying to understand what had happened. At school, Maya and Jordan faced questions from friends who had heard the story. Some were curious and kind, but others didn't understand or showed prejudice. This was a difficult new challenge for the family, helping their children navigate a world that was not always welcoming or fair. Marcus and Angela made a promise to teach their children about pride in their identity, courage, and the importance of standing up for justice. They spent many evenings talking openly about race, fairness, and how to respond if they ever faced discrimination again. Marcus's work as an FBI agent took on new meaning. He found himself more committed than ever to building bridges between law enforcement and communities. He understood how mistrust had grown and saw clearly the urgent need for change from within. He began meeting regularly with community leaders, police officials, and civil rights advocates. These meetings were sometimes tense, filled with strong emotions and disagreements. But Marcus believed honest conversation was the only way forward. He helped develop new training programs that focused not just on technical skills, but also on empathy and understanding. Officers were taught to recognize their own biases and to treat every person they encountered with respect. Marcus also worked on creating policies that increased transparency. He pushed for better use of body cameras, clear procedures for handling complaints, and stronger consequences for misconduct. He wanted to make sure that no family would ever have to go through what his had experienced. Angela's role expanded as well. She became a leader in local advocacy groups, organizing workshops and support groups for families affected by racial profiling. She knew how isolating and frightening these experiences could be, and she wanted to create safe spaces where people could share their stories and find help. She also worked closely with schools to promote diversity and inclusion programs. Angela believed education was key to breaking down prejudice and building a kinder, more understanding community. At the same time, Marcus and Angela kept their family life strong. They made time for fun and relaxation, trying to protect their children's innocence and happiness. Family trips, game nights, and quiet talks helped keep their bond close. Maya and Jordan grew into confident young people, proud of their heritage and aware of the challenges they might face. They became passionate about social justice, inspired by their parents' courage and the community's support. The family's story continued to inspire others. They were invited to speak at events, schools, and conferences, sharing lessons learned and offering hope. Their experience became a symbol of resilience and the power of standing up against injustice. While progress was slow and sometimes frustrating, Marcus and his family saw signs of change. More police departments adopted better training, community programs grew, and conversations about race and justice became more open. Marcus knew the fight was far from over. He recognized that systemic change would take time and effort from many people working together. But he remained hopeful. Through it all, Marcus and Angela never lost sight of the importance of family. Their shared experience had tested them but also strengthened their love and commitment. They had faced fear, pain, and injustice, but they chose to respond with courage, unity, and hope. Their story was a reminder that real change begins with speaking out, standing up, and supporting one another. It showed that even in the face of unfairness, people can find strength and use their voices to create a better world. As the years passed, Marcus and his family continued their journey, not just as survivors, but as leaders, advocates, and champions for justice. They understood that their vacation, once marked by fear and injustice, had become the starting point of a lifelong mission to make society fairer and kinder for all.